Okay, well, how can I be helpful to you today? I'm at your disposal.
This is the family system diagram where it's shown in the Family Healing book by Childress, which pretty much describes the exact situation where a kid doesn't want to see a normal arranged parent. This diagram, it's a mother doesn't have any time with the son during the divorce or after the divorce, and that is due to an enmeshed relationship with between the father and the son, a cross-generational coalition, and the inverted hierarchy. The son is lifted up above the mother, and there's an emotional cutoff from the son. The emotional cutoff is described in Bowen's book, which is pretty much a collection of all his Bowen's research on schizophrenia and how it develops. Dr. Childress has created these two simple checklists to identify the problems of kids not wanting to go visit with one parent or the other. It's basically the parenting practices rating scale, which verifies or identifies if that parent has an abusive behavior that the kid should be protected against. And there's the other one, that's a diagnostic checklist for pathogenic parenting. Pathogenic parenting, which means that these are the fingerprints that the abuser have, or they put on the abuse on the child, so it's been manipulated not to want to see one parent. And those, of course, are done to be verified in the family court cases. This is Walter and Friedman's article published in the Family Court Review, which is the forensic psychologists organization that produces this one. And it basically says that if the kids doesn't want to visit one parent, there could be an underlying encapsulated delusion in that parent, not the parent that it doesn't want to see, but the other parent, and that should be examined. Just to check on
it's stupid that they're not routinely.
Yes,
it's so easy.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not just have the mental health person routinely collect that information? The reason is because they're not competent, and it will show that they're not. They're going to say, oh my goodness, a delusional disorder? I don't know how to diagnose a delusional disorder. Because the pathology you're working with is a possible delusional disorder. I'll cite Walters and Friedlander. And so if you're working with a possible delusional disorder and you don't know how to assess for a possible delusional disorder, that is by definition beyond the boundaries of your competence.
Yeah.
So every single one of your mental health people is unethical. Every single one of them. So where are your licensing boards that are enforcing ethical standards of practice? Nowhere to be seen. Why aren't they enforcing ethical standards for competence? It is insane what's happening in the court system. It is a cover-up, what's happening in the court system. A cover-up by the authorities of the incompetence in the forensic psychologists. And because of the cover-up, children are being abused, spouses are being abused. That's a fact. In every single case, if there is not a child protection response, somehow the child's being abused by one parent or the other.
Yeah. It's because besides the what is it called, the ICD F24, there's also the 68 if it's .A if it's conscious.
The Munchausen's.
Yeah, but then again,
the factitious disorder imposed on another does not have the criteria of being conscious.
Oh, okay, it doesn't.
It's just a false pathology imposed on the child. It doesn't even require the secondary gain of the parent getting something out of it. That used to be a criteria, but they don't like attributing motivations to people. So in the later revisions of the DSM, they've just made it a false pathology being imposed on the child. In this case, it's a false attachment pathology and persecutory delusion being imposed on the child. I do like the secondary gain component as a definition.
Yeah.
So the secondary gain is manipulating the court and getting their own personal needs met.
And the thing, yeah, and I was just thinking because if you cannot, I mean, if it doesn't have to be conscious, in the case that the people just ignore it and not looking for it.
Yeah, basically because they're practicing beyond the boundaries of their competence.
Yeah.
So I work, I don't come from the family courts. I work out in the real world of real child stuff. In real child stuff, you don't see delusional disorders. You never see that in child. That's not a feature of ADHD or autism or school behavior problems or nothing. And so the only place you see the delusional disorders is over in schizophrenia. And so none of the child people, none of the family court people know what delusions look like. The other is factitious disorder imposed on another. Nobody knows what that looks like. The people who are expert in that are pediatric psychologists at children's hospitals, because that diagnoses it. When the children's hospital physician looks at a chart that's that big and says, I think it might be Munchausen's here, they call down to the psych department and say, can I get a psych consult? And then the pediatric psychologist goes up to make the diagnosis of factitious disorder imposed on another. Guess what? I'm a pediatric psychologist trained out of children's hospitals and worked at children's hospitals. So I'm one of the best trained people in factitious. That's why I recognized it, because I'm now in the family courts that I bring this knowledge in. But the people who work here, no, and so that's why they've just been missing the diagnosis forever and ever. Because they're not competent in the pathology.
Yeah.
I think fundamentally, though, this is a pathology that needs to be fixed. This is child abuse, active child abuse in the family courts. That's what all the data lands on and the interpretations land on. This is child abuse. This is a shared persecutory delusion. Child abuse and spousal abuse using the child as a weapon. These are dangerous pathologies that need a protection response now, today, immediately, not 5 years after we generate the research. And the way we get that child protection response is by getting the proper clinical knowledge into assessing these children that returns an accurate diagnosis of the child abuse. So that needs to happen like tomorrow. It needs to happen 5 years ago. It needs to happen 10 years ago. And so the fact that we've lost so many children to child abuse and so many parents to just had their lives destroyed by this brutal spousal abuse for decades is unconscionable. So the idea of waiting for additional research sticks in my craw a little bit as a clinical psychologist. We need to be, the mental health people, the only issue is the mental health people need to develop the backbone to protect the children. That's all it takes. They just need to diagnose the child abuse when the child abuse is present, but they're not, for a variety of reasons, and that's the problem. So we got dark personalities, dark triad, vulnerable dark triad, dark tetrad in the families who are undiagnosed, unaddressed, untreated, the core of evil, destroying the lives of children and their parents, and manipulating the family court judges through Machiavellian levels of manipulation to destroy the lives of children.
Yeah, because
and everybody's going along with it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I was talking to some politician, which doesn't really make sense, and she was like worried about what if it's actual child abuse, because that's going on, of course. And also I recognize the same pathology in foster care situations where kids are moved somewhere, but then it might not be.
I've worked foster care.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the way these children present in this court involved is not anything close to what children present like when they've been abused. If you've actually worked abuse, you look at these kids and say, that's not no, this child hasn't been abused. When they're coming and saying, oh, I don't like, my dad didn't take me to the McDonald's or something, and that's not an abused child. For one thing, if a child is afraid of a parent, they do not challenge that parent. They do not assert into that parent, I don't want to be with you, because that's a dangerous parent. Children who are afraid of the parent go submissive, not arrogant and haughty and judgmental and stuff. So that's just a nonsense thing. However, what the political person was concerned about is a genuine concern.
Yeah.
What we have is severe attachment pathology, and it's really important to use professional terms for this so that we know where we are and what we're doing. So we have an attachment pathology. That's a problem in the love and bonding system of the brain. It's a primary motivational system of the brain developed across millions of years of evolution. Baby zebra gets close to mommy zebra when the lion's nearby. The attachment system, primary motivational system of the brain, functions in certain ways, dysfunctions in certain ways. When a child is rejecting a parent, that is a severe attachment pathology. It doesn't get any worse than a complete breach in the parent-child attachment bond. That's as bad as attachment pathology gets. The only cause of that level of attachment pathology is child abuse. Because problematic parenting produces what's called an insecure attachment. The child more strongly wants to bond to the problem parent. So, but this isn't insecure attachment. This is a complete breach. Child says, I don't want to have anything to do with that parent. The only cause is child abuse by one parent or the other. So it's either authentic child abuse by the targeted parent creating the child's pathology. That's a two-person attribution of causality. Or it's psychological child abuse by the allied parent, that dark triad personality that Melanie talks about in the articles. So it's either Melanie's articles and the dark triad, dark personalities, or it's a dark personality on this side, actual child abuse. So we're looking at that personality pathology on one side or the other. The only question is which parent. So if all these families and all the family courts where you are in Serbia, United States, Canada, everywhere, if the judges and mental health people are not taking a child protection response in every single case, they are participating in the child abuse somehow. Because I know for a fact there's going to be there's child abuse one way or the other, because that's the only cause of it.